On my travels around Southeast Asia, I almost skipped Malaysia completely. However, something told me that I would be missing out if I didn't stop in the city of Kuala Lumpur to see how this diverse place and its people live. Kuala Lumpur surprised me in many ways, most of which were positive and some of which were actually not. In these first 2 days, I tried local cuisine, explore the city and central market, as well as taking a day trip to arguably one of the most well-known attractions in the world, the Batu Caves. If you're new here, hi, my name is Eowyn, I'm 22, from New Zealand, and a few months ago I quit my job to travel the world. Like an idiot. I've been documenting my travels around Southeast Asia, where I've travelled to 4 countries so far. Previously, I had spent time in Phuket and Phi Phi, which I was able to see from the plane on the way down to Kuala Lumpur, a rather wild experience after having been there only a day or so earlier. It looked so small. I arrived very late in the evening, and I was trying to gauge the vibe of the city as I suffered through the 60-minute car ride from the airport. However, I found it a bit difficult to do. Now, I'm not going to lie, I went to McDonald's this first night, as by the time I arrived it was about 9:30 at night and I didn't want to put in any effort. I know it's not that authentic, but the nasi lemak was actually pretty solid and a good way to introduce me into Malaysian cuisine, which I had never tried before in my entire life. The next morning I got up and went to find some breakfast. I found a bookstore along the way to Mountbatten, which became a fixture of mine in Kuala Lumpur. Yes, it does serve Western cuisine, but it has some of the nicest ambience and energy that I have found, and it was very quiet that morning. I had a white coffee and then decided that one was not enough, so I went and got a second coffee at Red Door. This was really good. I don't know what they did to it, but it was amazing. Now, I actually had a very bad bug or food poisoning that I got on my last day in Thailand and had no appetite until I went to Soong beef noodle in the afternoon. Apparently this is a really well-known place. When I got there, I met a guy who had been working overseas for 4 years, and he had previously lived in Kuala Lumpur and said that this was the place he missed the most, which to me says I was doing a good job of finding things. And seriously, this was one of the best things I have eaten in Asia. Kuala Lumpur's ethnic makeup is around 50% Malay, 40% Chinese and 10% Indian. So this is Chinese cuisine, but technically it's still local. I then headed round towards the central area of Kuala Lumpur, visiting the River of Life and the Sultan Abdul Samad building, which is an 1800s government building with some crazy architecture. From here I made my way through to Merdeka Sqaure, which kind of did seem closed, so I'm not really sure if it was open or what was going on, and I also briefly checked out the city gallery, but unfortunately there wasn't much there as far as I could see. However, I really enjoyed people watching in this area. I then headed towards Chinatown, where I came across Book Excess. This has to be one of the coolest bookstores I have ever seen, even though the layout is so illogical that it's actually just wild. I'm not complaining though, because the book prices were also really good. I then headed towards Central Market, which is a little shopping centre mainly with local things, where I picked up some sort of Malaysian cake for 5 ringgit, which I still don't quite know what it is. The lady did tell me, but if you can tell me what it is, I would be grateful. It tasted pretty reasonable though. Central Market has a lot of little different stores and also a food court, and I definitely think it's worth checking out. I'm going to be honest though and say I didn't do virtually anything else this day because I was still feeling pretty sick. However, I decided I still had to make the most of it and headed through to the Batu Caves the next morning. In my research, I had read that the Batu Caves smelled and there were a lot of monkeys, but it was still worth visiting, and I think that is a great description. It's around half an hour out of the city centre. When you arrive, the Golden Buddha is so big it's actually kind of intimidating. What I really loved though were all the monkeys. There were actually so many of them around that it's kind of hard to comprehend or showcase on video, but basically everywhere you looked there was a monkey, and same as anywhere, they will steal anything that is loose. After monkey watching, I made my way up the many steps, which are very, very steep and also a bit slippery, so make sure you wear adequate footwear if you're visiting. At the top of the stairs there's a giant group of caves where there are no bats, which I was very happy about, just loads and loads of pigeons and also more monkeys, plus a few more temples. My fun fact for the day is that Kuala Lumpur is actually the 6th most visited city in the world, with over 8.9 million tourists visiting each year. Additionally, the Batu Caves is the largest Hindu temple outside of India. Something else I found really interesting is that the steps leading up to the temple were only painted rainbow in 2018, which was 6 years ago. There was actually a few lawsuits and arguments because obviously it's a historical site with a long history, but it kind of got overruled. However, I think something like this actually shows the effect that social media has on tourism nowadays, because once they painted the steps it went instantly viral, and it does look really cool, but if it was just beige or concrete steps, I don't think as many people would visit it or know about it. I think this is really interesting when you look at it in a larger contextual sense, because then you can really actually see the relevance of social media in a worldwide context and have some interesting conversations about how useful or ethical the platforms actually are. So Google reviews said it smelled here, it definitely smells, and also do not bring food, the monkeys will have it in like a second. It is really amazing though, like the freaking, I don't know what kind of rock this is, I'm guessing it's limestone, I could be wrong. It's just fantastic, and there are a lot of steps. There's not actually that many steps, it kind of just looks like there's a lot, but there's not really, it's just hot, yeah. Lots of birds as well, no bats. Almost as bad as in Paris with the pigeons. I'm rambling, I'm tired. On my way back down, I came across a few monkeys grooming each other, and for some reason, I just found it really sweet. Sometimes I think that monkeys and other animals we consider less intelligent are actually a bit more intelligent than humans, because there's a greater capacity between them for a lot of the things we've lost in the digital age. At any rate, I found them beautiful to watch, and I hope you'll enjoy watching them as well. I then headed to Farm Cafe near Batu Caves and had a Malaysian European cross soup pasta thing that was actually really good. It was delicious, I just don't know how to describe it because it was like pasta noodles but everything else was Malaysian, so I don't know, it was good food. They also gave me a little jelly pudding which I liked, and it was great because I was still sick. I then went to Soong again in the evening for dinner because it really was that good. Overall, my first impressions of Kuala Lumpur were a bit mixed. I actually found it really hard to consolidate what I felt about the city other than confused. However, in next week's vlog, I'll be clarifying a little bit more about what I thought of the city after then spending a week in total there. I hope you've enjoyed following me through these few days, and I'll catch you next week. Toodles!